Joining us now to talk more about all of this is Ruth Ben-Ghiat, professor of history at New York University and author of Strong Men, Mussolini to the Present. Ruth, Trump isn't trying to clean up his dictator comments. He is doubling down. He is getting reinforced. As someone who studies strong men, is this kind of rhetoric familiar to you?
It is, and he's making being a dictator his brand. Violence is already his brand after he incited a violent coup attempt that many seem to be forgetting about. But he has been educating the American people to want an authoritarian style of leadership for a very long time, saying that, force is the way you decide things, demonizing those who don't think like him or support him. Admiring Putin and Xi and Orban, and he never admires democratic leaders across the world. It's always autocrats. So this is his brand now, and so he's not going to, back away from it. He's going to double down.
Going back to how he used his or explained his comments, the dictator on day one, he says because he wants a wall, he wants to drill, drill, drill. What do you make of his focus on those issues specifically?
It's pretty sad that his policy is, at the time of the climate crisis, that his policy is plundering the earth. That's what he's advertising he wants to do, plunder the earth and demonize immigrants. But I know from my studies of authoritarianism, successful leaders always have to have powerful partners, and those would be the people in the fossil fuel industry, which he privileged in his first administration, and all those who are eager to have an enemy, and that's always immigrants. In fact, keeping immigrants out and talking about you need national security measures and repression because immigrants are flooding across the border has been used by everyone from Mussolini to Pinochet in Chile up to Trump. This is an old playbook.
We just went through the polling, and Trump keeps gaining support. A lot of Republicans apparently aren't worried about this. They clearly don't see him as a threat to democracy. And as the New York Times writes, former President Donald J. Trump and his allies are not doing much to reassure those worried about his autocratic instincts. If anything, they seem to be leaning into the predictions. Does that frighten you?
It's very alarming because the GOP is now, in my opinion, based on my years of study, it's an autocratic party. This is hard for many in America to accept. It is a party now dependent on violence, on the threat of violence, on corruption, because election denial is a form of corruption, and on lying, the big lie. And it's a party that revolves around the priorities of its leader, who is leading as a cult leader. And Steve Kornacki's, some of the statistics that showed that the base, 7 out of 10 have their minds made up. That's because Trump has appealed to them as a kind of demagogue who will solve all their problems. I alone can fix it. And history shows that this is a very dangerous kind of leadership, and it leads to the ruin of countries.
This is a guy, though, who already lost the White House. His party also lost the Senate and the House when he was president. He's currently facing all these criminal charges. Why do you think Trump still has the kind of pull he has with the Republican Party?
In part because he's a superb propagandist. He knows how to tell stories. And one of the biggest stories, which again dates back to Mussolini and Hitler, is that he's the victim. Once they present themselves as the victim, in this case, it's the deep state. In other cases, it's other, persecutors. Everything that happens to them, every new legal charge becomes proof of the witch hunt. And so if we look at the people who used the words witch hunt to describe their persecutions, Mussolini, Erdogan in Turkey, Silvio Berlusconi in Italy, by the time he left office involuntarily, he had dozens of indictments, and he remained enormously popular. So we're not the only nation to go through this, but because of the power that America has in the world as well, it would be catastrophic if Donald Trump comes back to the White House.
Ruth Ben-Ghiat, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us.